Welcome, Beefy Boys Breakdown. We're going to be recapping UFC 301. Big pay-per-view just happened, and man, we were disagreeing on how the main event was scored, how the flyweight title was scored. It was a close fight.
Absolutely. Super, super close fight. Almost closer than the money line was, which surprised me. I think we were both pretty heavy on the Pantoja money line. We thought there was good value there. And to be quite honest, I think Erceg kind of fumbled the bag at the end trying to wrestle. He should have just tried to strike the whole time. He was abusing Pantoja just purely on the feet. It was whenever Pantoja was able to work grappling in that it was a problem for Erceg. Now, that's not to say Erceg wasn't doing well in the grappling. He was just doing so much better in the striking.
Yeah, for sure. I think we might be a little bit frozen up, but yeah, no, I agree, man. Erceg, I agree. On my scorecard, it doesn't matter because I had Erceg up 3-1 going into the fifth, which I guess that's controversial to some people, but like but I do. It was puzzling because, like, if you're wrestling, like, if you're tired, it probably takes more effort for a striker to wrestle than if he was just a strike and do what he's comfortable with. So I can't think of a good reason why Erceg was shooting for takedowns in the fifth round either. That was a fumble.
Yeah, and I also was really surprised. There was one judge that had it 4-1 for Pantoja, which, in hindsight, I feel like, I mean, and it wasn't even the Brazilian judge. I'm looking at it right now. Fabio Alves had it 48-47. I thought the 49-46 came from the Brazilian judge. But that being said, I think one clear point is that Erceg absolutely won round 4. Like, there's no debate. And I think Pantoja won round 1, and I feel like that's not really a debate. But I think 2, 3, and honestly even 5, I think you can make a case. Now, I do think Pantoja does enough by controlling and actually transitioning through in round 5 to get that one to stay securely for him. But it's still kind of a back-and-forth round. So really this fight came down to rounds 2 and 3.
Agree. Yeah, I would give 5 to Pantoja firmly. I'd say, like you said, 1, 4, and 5 are kind of not up for debate. It's all how you saw 2 and 3. And I gave 2 and 3 to Erceg. I think that's where my scorecard differs from most people. I think most people would maybe split those rounds. And I thought round 2 was the hardest to score. Round 3, I feel pretty bullish about Erceg.
Yeah,
but I thought round 2 was harder to score than round 3.
So went back and rewatched the this fight specifically. I didn't rewatch the rest of them, but rewatched this one because it was so hard to score, right? And I had Kenneth and Holt over, so I wanted to watch it. And also, I felt like the commentary was biased as shit in this fight because Felder and DC were just like having a conversation about each fighter and not necessarily what was like happening at all times in the fight. And I felt like that was like misleading as fuck. Because they were talking about Erceg needing to pull momentum all of round 2, which he is kind of doing, but that's a 50-50 round, and Pantoja just won the last one, and they say nothing nice about him in that round. So for me, I was just like, that feels like where the bias is coming from round 2, so I watched it with no commentary, and I actually changed my scorecard. Originally, I had Pantoja winning 3 and Erceg winning 2. I now have Erceg winning 3 and Pantoja winning 2. And 2 is a coin flip, a legitimate coin flip.
Yeah, that aligns with more like how I saw it. My coin flipped on Erceg, but yeah, round 2, I don't think you're crazy no matter how you scored round 2. There's a firm argument for either guy. Now, I'll tell you why I scored 2 for Erceg. I thought he won the damage battle. That's going to be a key part of this whole debate is damage versus control. The jab was landing. He landed some standing elbows. The first time he got taken down, he got up pretty quick, which is impressive against a guy like Pantoja.
45 seconds on the first one.
But Pantoja had 2 tape. Yeah, I'd say with like the best guy in the world on top of you. I don't know. I thought that was pretty good. Pantoja was able to get another takedown, but I just didn't think he really did much with either takedown, and I thought Erceg landed some very good damage.
I agree with I see, for me, Pantoja opens the round winning by a large margin. The first half of the round is for sure Pantoja. He's throwing knees to the body, hooks to the body. Erceg isn't really super active. He's just kind of pumping a jab. It's not really the hard elbows, not the crosses that he's landing in round 3. Because in round 3, he starts tagging Pantoja. Like, I thought the round 3
Yeah.
damage is vastly different than round 2. So I thought round 2,
I agree.
so I think Erceg might barely win the damage battle, but he also is controlled for 2 minutes of the round. And he gives up his back at one point. I know he fights out of him, but it's almost like, if the damage is damn near 50-50, but you also got controlled for 2 minutes and have none, I almost have to say, like, in a point fighting system, that Pantoja wins the round.
I don't hate that. I'm not dying on the hill. I don't hate that. That makes sense with me. I think I saw him at 60-40, 65-35 on the damage for Erceg, but I guess that's subjective.
Yeah, I think the knee. He landed knee. Pantoja, I'm talking about, landed knees to the body 6 or 7 times and landed one to the head. So it's like, if we're going to get hype about the elbow that was clean, we got to talk about the knees to the body that are clean.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Like I said, I'm not dying on a hill on round 2, but I think we both agreed that Erceg won 3.
Which is crazy because no judge gave Erceg 3, and 2 judges gave him 2. So my problem
that's wild.
My problem after
rewatching
it is, how do you score 2 for him, but not 3? Because I think in 3 he won the damage like 75-25.
Well, that was my logic, right? I gave him 2 and I gave him 3. So I agree with what you're saying. I think giving him 2 but not 3 is kind of wild.
Yeah, fully agree. Now, the one judge that scored 1, 2, 3, and 5 to Pantoja, at least he can logically argue that, I don't know what the argument is for 3, but at least he can stand on ground on 2 and say that that's a coin flip of a round.
Yeah, well, in 3, Pantoja got 2 takedowns, but Erceg was getting up from him. And I thought Pantoja had good volume on his feet, but Pantoja on the feet didn't really have any wow moments. You could argue in the clinch he did, but at distance, at striking range, he didn't really have any big moments in this whole fight. His damage was done in the clinch, and then he got takedowns. All the striking was won by Erceg.
Yeah, I agree. Whenever they would actually like sit and bang, Erceg was winning, but this kind of goes to the breakdown we gave of how this fight was going to play out too, is that Erceg needed to get out of that. As soon as he would throw like a 1, 2, 3, he needed to step out and not stay in there in the pocket, because that's when Pantoja would transition to grappling, run him to the cage, get this snoozy clinch, waste time, preserve energy, and essentially kind of muddy up the fight.
I might even make. I'm gonna channel my inner 10 guy sitting at the bar at Buffalo Wild Wings. You could argue that Pantoja won the sport, Erceg won the fight. You could argue, like if you want to be that guy. I guess I'm being that guy.
No, I 100% agree with that. But it's like I tried it down the hill for Corey Sandhagen when he lost to TJ Dillashaw. But at the end of the day, like the way the UFC scores it is what it is. So I think it's 3-2 in rounds in like point fighting for Pantoja.
I'll tell you what, I like the recall on the Dillashaw Sandhagen. You're right. This fight is very similar to that fight. I do feel like that there's like a parallel there for sure. Which I'm kind of being consistent because I like Sandhagen in that one, so I'm liking Erceg in this one. Fuck it.
I'm being, I guess, inconsistent, but it's almost like I'm like learning how the system runs more effectively, if that makes sense. Like, because I know damage should be everything, but then they consider everything else with damage. So when damage is close, then they start looking at other measures.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess that's like a basic definition of like what we're even doing when we're scoring here. Like, are you scoring as if how you think it'll be scored, or are you scoring on how you would score it if you were there ringside, a licensed judge? So I do think that like that is kind of up for debate, up for interpretation, I guess would be a better word.
I try to score it to like the best of the criteria. That's like, because my criteria would just be like, who's doing damage. Like, I would just put damage up probably. But like the actual like Nevada, whatever commission you want to call, the unified rules states you got to consider it all, and damage is number 1, but number 2 is control.
Yeah, man. So I end up with a final scorecard for 48-47 Erceg. I'm not alone. I see a lot of people on X's riding with me. But I mean, a lot of people are riding the other way too. But I'm not alone. I'm not alone. I'm not on third base holding catches on this one. There's other folks out there that saw it the same way.
Yeah, no, this fight was super controversial. And it honestly, I mean, we'll get to this way later in the breakdowns, but makes me think Alessandro Costa is pretty legit. I mean, he went to decision with Erceg and won a round off of Erceg when they fought. I went back and watched that fight. I think Alessandro Costa might be a top 15 flyweight that's just been having horribly tough matchups.
So literally right before, and we'll get to this obviously later on the prelim breakdown, but right before we went live, I was wrapping up my rankings updates, and I had to decide what to do with Alessandro Costa, and I didn't move him as high as you have him, but it's only because there's so many young killers in that division. I mean, there's undefeated guys that there's the Tyrers of the world. Like there was just people I couldn't jump him over. But I mean, I like him. I'm high on the kid. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. So as a guy who scored the fight for Erceg, I'd move Erceg up to 1 in my power rankings. And I know you thought I was crazy for doing that, but if I scored it for Erceg and it's my rankings, I mean, I got to be consistent here. And but Pantoja's firmly at 2. I could not even find an argument to drop Pantoja lower than 2. No way.
You know what made me move? So I have Erceg at 2, but I mean, kind of the semantics if I scored it for Pantoja, but coin flip fight. So yeah, same thing. But the one thing that moved Erceg up so high on my list, I knew his striking was as good as it was. We've seen it the whole time. His jiu-jitsu was really good. Really, really good.
Yeah.
Like, to avoid some of those positions he was getting trapped in by who I think is probably the best jiu-jitsu guy in the division, it was amazing. I was like, well, this guy, he might not be A+ jiu-jitsu, but it's A. It's like a 95 out of 100. Might not be 98, but it's damn good.
We'll call it a lazy comparison, but I mean, it's hard not to think of Volk, right? It's not hard not to jiu-jitsu guys.
Well, it's also, he's a national champion from New Zealand in wrestling, like Whitaker and Volk were in Australia. So he actually has a grappling background, Erceg. He didn't come from striking, which is amazing because his striking is so good.
Yeah, man. He's that next level. He's that next wave. That's why another reason why I have him 1, too. He's a bit younger. So, like, projecting moving forward.
That's fair.
I mean,
I'll hear
18
that.
months from now, he'll definitely be at 1, right? So,
I mean, even if they rematched, I think he'd probably win because he kind of had Pantoja figured out by the end of the fight. He just made mistakes that once he sees them and he doesn't make those, they were mistakes of his own volition, not mistakes that Pantoja forced, in other words.
yeah. No, I agree, man. And then, I don't know what's next. I think they're going to do Makayev next.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
think Makayev's next.
It's probably Makayev time. You know what I would love to see is Erceg Cop in the meantime.
Yeah, because they're doing an Australia card. I think it's UFC 305 or whatever. Everybody's saying Erceg's going to probably like co-main that, I would imagine.
Yeah,
that'd be a better. Or Alex Perez coming off the win.
Or you got or you got Cucklord Albazi.
Yeah, I guess he's healed up. I don't know. I haven't heard much from the Albazi camp, but I guess we got to get a co-main to get to.
Yes, sir, because this made my Brazil parlay worth it. We got Jose Aldo coming in at plus 120, I do believe.
Yeah.
And then Jonathan Martinez ranked 12th in the bantamweight division. Deep division, so 12 is very high at minus 140. Man, so my parlay, the Brazil parlay, I felt really strongly about the other three, Pantoja, Brito, and Costa, but I had to throw Aldo on there because it's the King of Rio, fighting in Rio, unretiring, even though he's in the Hall of Fame. And I just thought, honestly, like, it's UFC Rio, he decided, I want one more in Rio. And I thought he was going to retire no matter what. So already I was nervous about the bet because anyone that I think is going to retire, I hate betting on. It's like a cardinal rule. That being said, the man didn't retire. So I almost was saved by my own logic.
Yeah. Yeah. I expected more from Martinez, and I expected Aldo to look worse. Like, remember when Connor came back from boxing and he couldn't check kicks? And, like, I was expecting more of that. That didn't seem to be a factor at all. The age didn't seem to be a factor. He looked fast as fuck. His chin was there.
Yeah, you know what? Speaking of chin, Jonathan Martinez got his chin checked in round 3. Aldo damn near got the finish.
Yeah. Oh, he was wobbled bad. That big left hook, he was wobbled bad. I gave all 3 rounds to Aldo. All 3 judges did. Jonathan Martinez shit the bed. He shit the bed, man.
Bro, he was so upset after the fight, too. Like, it's not only like we knew he shit the bed, he knew he shit the bed. And honestly, this was like almost what I was betting on. The King of Rio in Rio having the moment and it being too big for Jonathan Martinez.
Now, I think here comes the fun part, because there's not much to break down in the fight. Aldo looks phenomenal. I mean, it was almost a flawless victory. He said, I gave him every round. So did everyone else. Have you inserted Aldo back into your rankings yet?
I have not. No, I haven't. But if I just had to jump into it, God, he's probably. I mean, I don't have Martinez as high as you, but Aldo's probably around 13 for me. In all honesty, because he's ahead of Ricky Simone, he's ahead of Munoz, he's ahead of Dom Cruz.
I'll be crazy. I mean, I have it ahead of all those guys too, and I'm going off my personal power rankings here. I put him all the way up at 6, man.
Yeah,
I put him all the way up at 6, behind Corey Sandhagen. I couldn't jump him over Sandhagen.
Yeah, but you have Martinez where before that? 8?
Don't worry about that. I still just dropped Martinez to 9. I think he had a bad night at the office.
Oh my God! You got to be more realistic with that. He got worked for all 15 minutes.
Yeah, but see, also I have people like already way up there. I mean, I have, like I said, I have Kyler Phillips up there, Song Yadong up there. I don't know. Like, I still didn't want to jump in behind Bautista. I didn't want to jump in behind Cheeto Vera. I guess I am a known Cheeto Vera hater. I mean, Davidson's got the. I mean, Cejudo, Dom Cruz. Like, I don't think I'm going to move him behind those guys. Those are the guys I have behind him.
I got him at 13, right next to Cejudo.
So, yeah, right now I have Cejudo at 13. Like, I'm just kind of out on Cejudo, and I think Jonathan Martinez would beat the fuck out of Cejudo. That's a bad matchup, I think, for Cejudo. The length, the kicks.
But now after seeing this, I think Cheeto Vera would beat Martinez.
And I knew that's where this debate was going to come down to. I don't, but I knew it. I literally knew it. I made my little quote about being a Cheeto hater, and like I said on the last episode of the breakdown, like I love Cheeto outside of the ring, but like as far as fight style, and I'm just out on Cheeto like inside the cage.
Let me just ask you this: what Jonathan Martinez win are you so hyped about?
And I just had this pulled up earlier. I don't have it in front of me.
Is it Adrian Yanez? Couldn't be that.
Well, and it's not necessarily. I think it's just how he's looked. Like, I mean, the leg kicks. I mean, he brings. I still think that he brings something like unique to the division. He's young. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to be just completely out on him. I think. I'm willing to give him another chance. I think.
I'm just looking at the record and like. Losses in his career to Andre Sukumtant, to Andre Ewell, to Davey Grant. And then he hit a run, right? And he beat... we don't even know who that is. And then he beat Alejandro Perez, Vince Morales, Cub Swanson, Said Nurmagomedov, Adrian Yanez. So he's on this awesome 6-fight win streak against all cans. Yanez at the time was not. I'll give you that.
And Saeed's not. I don't think. I think I like Saeed more than you do. I have Saeed at 15 still to this day.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I think that's the win that I'm valuing more than you is the Saeed win. I'm not out on Saeed. I think Saeed's damn good.
Man, I mean, I guess I'm just at the point with Jonathan Martinez where like he's in his prime. He's not going to get much better because he's been fighting in the UFC now for 6 years since he was 23. He's now 30, and we've seen this like. He has this 2-year window, and we're in it. I don't know. If he can't beat Aldo at the end of his days, I don't see ever a top 10 for Martinez. That's why I put him outside the top 10 specifically.
So earlier we used the phrase "shit the bed." That implies like did not perform well. Like I think if we saw the best Jonathan Martinez we've ever seen, and it wasn't good enough to beat old Aldo, then I think that point would be valid. I think when we say he shit the bed, like that wasn't his best. Like he didn't lose best on best. Like he fucked up. He fumbled. He Jalen Turner. Like I just I view it slightly differently. But like I said, we haven't seen a pattern of that. Like Jalen Turner, we've seen a pattern of it. This is the first time we've seen Jonathan Martinez in a long time shit the bed like that. So like I said, I just view it kind of differently. We want to give him another shot. I think he's still a problem for a lot of guys, especially a lot of the older guys and shorter guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying he should get dropped super far back, and in all honesty, I think he should still get a fight with a guy like Cheeto Vera or hell, Cejudo.
It has to be Cheeto. The fact that we're debating this hard on it, it has to be Cheeto.
Yeah, but it can't be because the UFC has him still ranked as 4th, and they have Martinez ranked as 12, and 12 coming off a loss isn't going to get to fight 4.
Cheeto at 4, I hate that so much.
Right, so realistically, it's like probably Dom Cruz or Mario Bautista or Pedro Munoz.
I'm cool with all those.
I would love Bautista. I would love Bautista because that would like cement it for me that I'm right about him being a level up on Martinez. And I honestly am not sure about that, so I'd like to see if that makes sense.
I have them right by each other, so you're right. That would be perfect for my rankings. I have them right next to each other. That'd be a no bet for me. But yeah, man. I mean, great win to have Aldo back, and like you said, he didn't retire. That's why I put him in my rankings. And the fact that he didn't retire, he's probably going to fight again, or at least so it seems. And I think he's getting a top 5 guy if he does fight a Sandhagen, maybe an Umar. I mean, I know Umar's not top 5 in the actual rankings, but I don't know. It's going to be a big fight.
I agree. Let's keep it pushing because we have the absolute. I mean, we talked about winners of the night. For me, this was the guy that outright won the night because it essentially saved his career or position in the ladder for his career. Because if you're 10 and you lose to 15. What's next? You're fighting guys to keep your ranking. Like, you're going to try to hang on to 14 or 15, and you have to fight these killers, right? If you win against 15, now you get a shot against 7, 8. You kind of get to just stay comfortable in those matchups that you've been in. So with all that being said, it's Anthony Smith, who's number 10, plus 425, taking on Vitor Petrino, number 15, at minus 575. And this fight does not get out of the first round.
Yeah, and not the way the money line would make you think either.
Correct.
Yeah, this money line was crazy on Petrino because, like, my whole read on Petrino has been, like, stud athlete, but, like, meathead, bad fight IQ. And that's exactly what we saw.
Yes.
Like,
to a T.
The guy
to a T. And it's what
he
we
makes
called
bad choices.
It's what we called in our breakdown for the reason that you could not bet this fight. It was effectively that Petrino, being so young, being in Brazil, being this hot shot, getting Anthony Smith, and having this just balls to the wall style. Well, the thing about that is that vet savvy is the big counter to balls to the wall style. And I can't remember who tweeted it, but certainly Dustin Poirier was smiling somewhere when Anthony Smith jumped Gilly, and it was tight.
Poirier was 6 to midnight. He jumped Gilly on the first takedown attempt, secured it, submitted him with it. 2 minutes into the first round. Yeah, big underdog. Shout out to anybody that had an Anthony Smith ticket. I did not, but I mean that is a juicy dog.
Yeah,
that you cashed. So congratulations to the Smith bettors. Hats off to you all. And yeah, man. I mean, the thing about this one to me is I still have Smith at 15 in my power rankings. Like, I don't think that I think this is more like Petrino fights dumb, and he fought a smart guy, and he stuck his head literally into a Gilly. And so I have granted, I've dropped Petrino all the way down to 16, and I have Smith at 15. I couldn't jump Smith over Guskov. Like, I think moving forward, I think Guskov has a higher ceiling than Smith.
I agree. It's perfect, bro.
Yeah.
It's perfect. It's Guskov Smith. That's the fight.
Yeah, twin on twin.
Because Guskov is now ranked 12, Smith's ranked 10. It's time.
Yep. It's time for the corniest marketing campaign you've ever seen in your life.
And then as far as Petrino, what are you thinking next for him? Ryan Spann?
I have them right next to each other in my rankings.
Me
I have
too.
them right next to each other. That
Me
makes a lot
too.
of sense. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Perfect. All right. Well, I
Perfect.
mean, I would say more time on that, but there's really nothing to break down. Like Petrino looked good, shot a takedown, got his neck caught, got tapped. The matchups are pretty fairly like forward, I think. Like Guskov Smith's just fun, and then Petrino and Span makes a lot of sense for where the division's at. And with all that said, we'll keep it pushing. This is one where Vegas odds. I mean, it's middleweight. It's Michel Pereira. Minus 625 taking on Ihor Potieria plus 455. This was a feeding. I actually was telling Holt, like, this Ukrainian cuck's going to get fed to this hungry Brazilian in Rio, and then this guy's going to get cut, and then he's going to get drafted to the war, and it's going to be a terrible life for him. And
Oh God.
and so Holt was like looking at me like, what? And then the fight takes 54 seconds, and by the end of it, Holt's looking at me like, I don't know what city he's going to, but I hope it's not Kiev.
Well, dude, so I had Pereira by KO, and I mean Pereira could have done whatever he wanted to him, including KO him, but instead he jumped Gilly. He just wanted to shout out the diamond one more time on the night, and it was the most unnecessary Gilly. As a guy who bet Pereira by KO, like he could have just hit him like 3 more times in my bet cash random Gilly. It almost is like when you're playing the UFC video game. Like that's how like the submission felt to me. Like you have a guy hurt, you throw one on.
The
But it worked for him.
the actual biggest discussion here is going to come down to Pereira's backflip capoeira kick. That I guess they reviewed it and they said it was like centimeters off from connecting on the head when it landed, but they said it hit on the collarbone, so it was legal.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't know. I thought it could have gone either way. Like when I was watching live, I like looked at Nina and I was like, yeah, this is crazy. Like I don't know which way they're gonna go. And they ended up letting it not be a no contest. And I think I just hate no contest. So like I would rather have a real result, especially in a fight like that. That was like an ass whooping.
Yeah,
So
that's my thing. Is like
I would have hated to see her not count as a win.
yeah, it's like the John Jones no contest, right? Like when they're whooping someone's ass and then they get like DQ'd for an illegal strike. It's like, man, they didn't even have to do that. Like they just did it for flair. Like fuck. So that would have sucked. I'm glad they kept the result. Potieria, absolute can. Got to be cut from the UFC. My God.
He's so bad.
Also thought it was hilarious. They played Shogun's Hall of Fame induction video right before Potieria walked out because he has the win over Shogun in his retirement fight. And so this was like the Brazilian revenge. Like this is what I was trying to explain to Holt. Like this is not going to go well for this guy.
Yeah, that was like some straight evil Vince McMahon shit. Like seriously, like.
Now, I think we got to talk about moving forward, man, because I kind of have a problem with Pereira. This guy, I feel like, kind of cherry picks his fights. Now, obviously, the UFC is the person who offers him the fight, and I have no evidence he's turning down fights, except for when you look at his Tapology and you see the canceled bouts or the weight misses. Stephen Thompson was kind of a pussy for not fighting him. That's neither here nor there. But I don't know, man. I'm ready for Pereira to actually fight someone that matters.
See, like, I agree with all the like statements you just made. I just kind of maybe have like a different connotation to it. But like, I view it as like this is not necessarily his fault, but I also totally share the sentiment that it's like it's time to get the show on the road. Let's quit feeding him cans. Let's quit giving him mid old guys, and like let's get this because like I have Pereira power ranked 14 right now. I have him behind Kamaru Usman and like Borralho and Alaskarov, but I have him ahead of Imavov and Dolidze. I don't know. Does that sound about right to you? Or
yeah,
no. I just think like he would fight too dumb to beat Kamaru Usman. Like there's no way you're doing that silly shit and beating Kamaru Usman.
Yeah, no shot at all. I have him right next to Anthony Hernandez, which is actually who I would like to see him fight next.
Yeah, I have Anthony Hernandez a little higher up at 10, but like still the same kind of tier. And you're right, that's the exact level of test that we need to see him pass. Like I'm so down for that.
Yeah, and it's not one of these old middleweights. I don't want to give him like a Dolidze or even a Paul Craig, because I think that's kind of the lineup here is that Petrino, or not Petrino, what am I saying? Is that Pereira probably slides to 15, Paul Craig falls out of the rankings, Borralho goes to 13, Chris Curtis goes to 14. This is UFC rankings, right? And so then it's like, if they're giving Pereira cherry pickings again, they'll give him Craig, because it's just another, essentially, like, guy for him to beat up and, like, sell fights with. If they want to actually test him, they'll probably give him Anthony Hernandez.
Agreed with all that. Yeah. I mean, but it's time. It's time. Should have get off the pot. Performance of the night bonus for Pereira, our first one of the night. I mean, well deserved. I mean, it was a show, right? Like he put on a show.
Yeah.
So performance of the night bonus, well deserved.
It was awesome. He was great. Like, for a guy like Holt that just very casually watches the UFC, he was talking about that fight the whole night because of the backflip kick. And yeah, just Pereira as a character. But we can keep it pushing because most impressive performances, this has to be up there. And Caio Borralho does get a performance bonus for it. It's middleweights. It's number 14, Caio Borralho, at minus 625, taking on number 13, Paul Craig, at plus 455. Me and Dominic took maybe our worst ticket we've ever taken. Now, I'm gonna push back on that narrative myself and say that the value was there to take that ticket, especially when we only put one unit on it. Small sprinkle. But damn, Paul Craig is washed.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with all of that. We had a plus 950 ticket. Yeah, one unit little sprinkle plus 950. We had the odds boost at Caesar Sportsbook, and it was worth the sprinkle. No regrets. As soon as this fight ended, I texted the group chat. I was like, no regrets. I mean, it was a sprinkle. A sprinkle is what a sprinkle is. But I mean, plus 950. You shoot your shot. Shooters shoot. And but anyway, Borralho, yeah, flawless victory. I mean, he whooped Paul Craig's ass. Paul Craig obviously kept trying to pull guard like he always does, and he always hangs his chin up straight up in the air, and just like is a one-dimensional striker, one-dimensional fighter. Like he does decent body kicks, but dog shit boxing.
When are these Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys that are aces on the ground with submissions, when are they going to learn how to offensively wrestle so they can get takedowns? When? I don't get it.
Well, not when they're 37, right? I think that's the word.
Yeah. No, I'm fully with you. I'm just saying, like, when is that style of guy going to learn? Like Diego Lopez, he knows how to get takedowns, and then he's super effective.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now you're speaking my language. But, I mean, I had to drop Paul Craig all the way down to 21, and maybe I should go lower. I mean, he has the win over Andre Muniz.
Bro, I have him at 20, and I literally thought to myself, like, does he deserve 20? Like, I almost wanted to go to, like, 26.
Because, like, Kopylov might whoop the fucking shit out of him.
That's what I'm saying. I started looking at names, and I was like, man, if he catches hands from even, like, Gregory Horsemeat, like, Rodriguez Horsemeat might whip his ass. And honestly, Rodriguez would be a bad matchup because he can beat him in jiu-jitsu. That should be next. That'd be fire.
That's next. And our boy RoboCop, like, that'd be a big name for him. I'm down.
That's fire. Stumbled on it.
That is fire. We did. We found our way into that one, man, but it totally works. And then Borralho, man, we haven't even talked about Borralho. He's the real winner here. I moved him up to 12 in my rankings. I didn't want to jump him over Ikram. I think a test of the caliber of Ikram, because like we just said, Paul Craig's washed. So on paper, that was his big test because he's been crushing cans and getting decisions until now. See, Borralho, it's weird. I sound like a hater, but I'm still just not 1,000% sold. I think Craig's washed. I think he's had a lot of decisions with cans. And like a guy like Ikram might be real problems for him.
100% agree with you. Now, looking at it from this aspect, you're number 14. You knock out viciously number 13. Just optics, you're probably going to get a top 10 next, right?
Agreed.
So, if you had to choose between these four, and I don't think he might fight Costa. I don't know, but Costa, Imavov, Dolidze, Hermanson. Costa's interesting because Costa has a fight coming up. If he loses, he's kind of in the prime spot to take that. I personally would rather see a Dolidze Hermanson matchup here.
So you're talking about for Borralho, right?
Yes,
I
yeah.
can literally I can already see the Apex main event poster. Is Borralho deletes it. It's gonna be like teal or something like that, and it's gonna be Apex City coming to an empty warehouse near you.
Oh my god. The disrespect. It's true though, man. Like, although Borralho does speak English, he just has those like Rent-A-Character tats. That's the problem.
them VC2K tats.
Dude, and they're cheap VC. Like, those aren't even the expensive VC tats.
Oh, man,
I mean, fight or
copy-paste.
die on your bicep, Japanese scripture on your other tattoos, and then free spirit across your throat. All right.
Brazilian throat tat squad. But yeah, I mean, it's like he hasn't given me a reason to not believe. Really, like he's done what he's needed to do every time he's been asked to do it. But it's I'm just not buying this like resume, like this level of competition.
I know.
Yeah, he needs that. But you want me out into something that makes me an asshole? If he beats the leads, I'm gonna say the same thing.
I probably would too. But you know, to Michael's credit, he seems super high on Borralho and seems like he's wanting Borralho to get that push. So I'm here for it just to see if it's going to continue. Because I wonder about Borralho, just his ceiling, man. His floor is so high. I think his ceiling caps.
Yes. See, exactly. Like he's obviously not.
Can I get a response from the trader?
Oh man, ESPN always trying to. They catch us right at the end of the episode every time. It's wild.
But yeah, it's like I fucking lost my train of thought. It's all good. Borralho,
No.
Big things ahead for Borralho.
No. Borralho's floor and ceiling. You were making a good point.
Oh yeah. Just like he's clearly not bad at. Like he's clearly very good. But like it's just like we have yet to see if he's elite. Like knocking out Paul Craig doesn't prove that you're elite. Going to decisions with cans doesn't prove that you're elite. It's like we don't know what we don't know. It doesn't mean he's not elite, but like there's nothing that we've seen that like has led us to believe that he is.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. But yeah, it feels like we flew through those fights, but that's because the three finishes were insanely fast finishes, insanely dominant performances, including Jose Aldo in that list. So the main event took half the show, but it probably deserved it in all honesty. It probably took half the night as far as the pay-per-view is concerned.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was the whole conversation, right? And I mean, everybody was talking about how'd you score it. I mean, I saw every scorecard out there and everywhere in between. I think Verdict had it within like a fucking nut hair.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. I mean, close one. But yeah, brother, we'll get to these prelims here in a second. Like and subscribe. Check us out. We always give our betting picks on Wednesday or Thursday, so check those out. We're back in the green.
Yes,
Revenge
sir.
wins.
Both green this week. I fucking hate you, Vegas. Let's go.